Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Inside Out Show. My name is Sandra, and of course, a big round of applause for my wonderful audience. Thank you for being here. Charles, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
How's social media doing?
Fantastic.
Anything interesting trending like this week or no?
Loads of
social media space.
If I start, I won't finish. You know how I am with social media. If I start, I won't finish.
Okay. Yeah, and just in case if you don't see it down here on the screen, just go to our social media page, The Inside Out Show, and post your comments and whatever on the topic we're discussing today, previous topics and all whatnots. Yeah, we love to hear from you. Okay, having said that, let's get straight to today's topic, which is something I haven't experienced, and I hope I don't ever get to experience it. However, a lot of people who have gone through this particular phase in life don't really have such good things to say about it, and it's like something we're all not so aware of it. I mean, it happens, it's real, but we haven't gotten to that phase where we get to accept it. What am I talking about? Midlife crisis, depression, all of it. It happens, it is real, but how many people are willing to talk about it? You end up seeing most people either misbehaving or taking their lives. So today we are looking at this from an awareness angle. We're trying to educate everyone, ourselves, myself as well, because I'm not sure I really know the details of what midlife crisis is. So I hope at the end of this show today, we'll be able to know what is midlife crisis, the symptoms, how to deal with it, what is the place of family and friends, how can we help, how can we look out for each other to ensure that we're not going through all this mental illness and the sorts. Yep, that's what we're discussing today on the Inside Out Show. See you after the break. We will be right back. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to the Inside Out Show. Today, like I said before the break, we are discussing midlife crisis. Very important topic. I think Nigeria has gotten to that stage where we need to open our minds to the different types of mental illness that we have. Midlife crisis so happens to be one of it, according to popular belief. So now let's meet our panelists, starting with Mr. Onyema Odoh. He's a theater artist. Thank you for being here. And of course, Olanrewaju, who is the marketing communication specialist. Thank you. And finally, Mr. Samuel Akpakpam, 80. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Onyema, I actually got your name wrong. Mr. Onyema
Odoh.
Odoh. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Forgive me. Okay, so let's start with this discussion, midlife crisis. Midlife crisis. Charles, can we have a definition of midlife crisis before we go on?
Okay, so midlife crisis is the transition of identity and self-confidence that can occur in middle-aged individuals, typically between the ages of 45 and 64. The phenomenon is described as a psychological crisis brought about by events that highlight a person's growing age, inevitable mortality, and possible shortcomings of accomplishments in life. This may produce feelings of depression, remorse, and anxiety, or the desire to achieve youthfulness or make drastic changes to current lifestyle.
Okay. Samuel, as a clinical psychologist, would you have anything to attach to this definition?
Yeah, not really attached. I just want to say a few things. Midlife crisis. The phrase was coined by psychologist Elliot Jacks in 1965. It's not really a problem in itself. It's only inability to manage what terms like crisis that makes it a problem. So in itself, it's just a developmental phase, a period in someone's lifespan that he has to go through.
Okay. Sorry. Having had listened to the definition of midlife crisis, I'd like to get your views on it.
Well, like you said, it's a term that was coined by Elliot Jacks then. but I don't think it's really, I don't support the phenomenon. I don't believe in it. Because, okay, Wikipedia used the age 45 to 65 or thereabout, but I think it could be 30 to 35, it could be 30 to 40. I think what we call midlife crisis is actually as a result of choices we've made in the past. I believe whatever crisis you're going through per time, it's as a result of your decisions you've taken in time past, choices you've made. And so your ability to now respond to it positively or negatively rests with you. So once you go with a negative response, people term it as midlife crisis, but I don't think everyone should go through midlife crisis.
Okay. And Onyema, let's talk about what's your view on midlife crisis?
Yeah, my view over it is that first I would say it exists.
It's real?
Yeah, I believe in it.
Have you gone through it?
Practically.
Okay.
Then, but let me also define it in my own terms, dissecting the two words and then bringing them back, the midlife and then the crisis. Practically, a crisis is a moment of interruption over a peaceful flow of life. It can happen to individual, organization, society, and wherever. But the most important thing is that there has been a flow of a particular kind of life. At a stage, there is an interruption in between.
Okay.
Then the midlife, now...
So you think that happens to everyone?
It happens, of course.
To everyone?
Of course. The challenge may be identification. Then the midlife now must not really, though from the professionals, they try to make it between 40, 45 and above, but at times it doesn't work that way, based on individual destiny and the way you must have conditioned your life and other experiences that follow. That's the way I see it.
Larry, I see you shaking your head obviously. Okay, let's hear you.
Okay, fine. He has said that it can happen at any point in time. And he believes that everybody would go through it. It's just an issue of identification. So let me come in at that point. See, when you say midlife crisis, we're trying to separate midlife and crisis.
Of course.
At a certain point in life, you want to stop, or you want to pause, look back, and look forward again to say, what have I done? What have I accomplished? Where am I right now? Where are my mates? What should I be doing now? And if you're in the right frame of mind, you can say, okay, fine, this is what I have done wrong, this is where I have shortcomings, and this is what I need to do to move on. If you can sit down and come up with calculative response on how to move forward, I don't think it's a crisis. It's when you now see maybe you see you're lacking or the shortcoming, and you decide to say, okay, at this point, I want to live in denial, that does not exist, or, it's happened, well, life happens, and you just throw caution to the winds.
So I think midlife crisis is basically living in denial.
That, not really, not at all times.
Okay.
Some people are living in denial of what is happening. Some people cannot manage the reality as at that time. So it's your response. When you respond negatively, that's what I call the crisis. So midlife, at some point in your life, you want to stop and review. But it doesn't have to be tagged with crisis. You can review without having crisis.
Okay. Samuel, would you say, I'll get to you, Onyema. Would you say that, yeah, I know the professionals and the people, the psychologists gave an age range, but do you think that someone can be 29 or 30 and be going through midlife crisis, at least showing the symptoms?
No.
No?
Somebody at, if we look at developmental stages, somebody at 20, 29 is not at midlife.
Okay.
So, first of all, we must understand what the term midlife before we now bring crisis into it. Okay. Midlife is a central period of someone's development, and then it's seen to range between the ages of 40 to 60 and 65. Okay. So somebody at lower 40. Some people have proposed that from 35, some people experience midlife crisis. That somebody lower than that age definitely cannot be having what's called midlife crisis.
Okay. All right.
Coming up next on the show.
But she can say, I want to make more money and I want to hustle, and then she starts working hard, becomes a workaholic, and throws her family by the side. Isn't that the midlife crisis as well?
So that brings us to the negative response. So if she wants to make more money and she wants to also add, and she now relegates her family, then that is negative response.
No, it's not a crisis. In other words, you're not flowing in the line that is expected.
So, another thing, still trying to buttress my point about the way we react or respond to things. I'll give you two scenarios. Personally, in my own life, I've had serious issues. And it's only when someone that's really close to me that can say, even you know what Larry is going through. Or even know what Larry has gone through. But it's my ability to rise after whatever occurrence and move on to the next thing is what keeps me going. Now, I have a friend also. She woke up this year. She's been working like forever. But she woke up this year and felt, oh, I'm 40 this year. What have I done? And she's really hustling, trying to do so many things just to make money because she's 40. She didn't just know she'll be 40 this year. Now, she decided to respond to you that by saying, I need to make money, I need to achieve this, and this. Meanwhile, somebody else woke up last year and said, I'm 40 this year. Well, I've been hustling and working all through the years. In fact, I want to play and go wild. And she's been partying and she's been all over the place. So I'll call her on midlife crisis because she's responding negatively to it.
Okay.
But for my friend that decided to say this year, I want to make more money, I want to hustle, then I'll say, okay, it's an awakening.
But she can say, I want to make more money and I want to hustle, and then she starts working hard, becomes a workaholic, and throws her family by the side. Isn't that the midlife crisis as well?
So that brings us to the negative response. So if she wants to make more money and she wants to also add, and she now relegates her family, then that is negative response.
Okay, so if it's a negative response,
it's a crisis.
It's a crisis.
That's my own opinion.
I share a different view from what she's saying. Management of a situation is different from the situation. You first identify the situation. If you talk about management, you are giving us management without recognizing the situation. Then how do you flow?
What's the situation here?
The situation here is the crisis. And what is this crisis? The crisis is peculiar to the person that is undergoing it.
Okay, this is why I took us back to the Wikipedia definition initially. It's caused by different things, like maybe age, inevitable mortality, shortcomings, accomplishments so far. So it's the definition says that it's when you just wake up and you realize that maybe time is going, that's age, or you're going to die very soon, that's mortality, or the shortcoming, I'm not meeting up to my mates or my peers. So if I say I'm not meeting up to my peers or I feel I'm growing old, is that a crisis?
Is that a crisis?
No, it's not a crisis. In other words, you're not flowing in the line that is expected. From the definition we have had there now.
Charles, can we have that definition again?
Let's take it again.
Okay. So midlife crisis is a transition of identity and self-confidence that can occur in middle-aged individuals, typically between 45 and 64 years of age. The phenomenon is described as a psychological crisis brought about by events that highlight a person's growing age, inevitable mortality, and possible shortcomings of accomplishments in life. This may produce feelings of depression, remorse, and anxiety, or the desire to achieve youthfulness or make drastic changes to current lifestyle.
So your friend is experiencing midlife crisis, anxiety.
Okay, so I'll take two things. From in the beginning, it says that it can. It didn't say it must or it exists. Can.
Can is an ability.
Wait. There's another one that says, towards the end, it says may. There's a may somewhere there. May produce depression and all that. So, if when she woke up and said, I'm 40 this year, and she starts brooding, that's depression, Abi. The anxiety, I won't really call it anxiety. She feels, oh, okay, yeah, time is going. I'm 40, what have I done? Yeah, it was, for me, I think it was an awakening in
a wake-up call.
Wake-up call, yeah, that's the word. A wake-up call. And she said, what can I do from now? But if she had sunk into depression, or she panics, or out of fear, like you said, she starts to work so much and abandons the people that matter to her and all that, then I think there's crisis. It's just my own opinion anyway.
All right, Onyema, let me hear. I don't know if you mind sharing. I hope you do. Your midlife crisis experience.
Okay.
Please.
Quite interesting. Like I said, yeah, it can come from different angles. For there are different types of it. It could be financial, moral, social, and otherwise. Mine was more of moral. Yeah, I'm one of these people that grew up in the church. I didn't grow and join church. I was born
into it.
No, all these, you see children running about from there, grew up. So in other words, I have been morally patterned to live in the fear of God.
Like the perfect life.
See?
Like to live the perfect
Fine.
life.
Put it that way. Then, being a Catholic, I had the desire for Catholic priesthood. And Catholic priesthood is an institution that is characterized by celibacy and chastity for those who are willing to practice it. Being that I have been patterned that way, and I'm so desirous that I want to live this life and I want to do exploit in my ministry, I pursued seminary school for 10 years. With all this enthusiasm, I never got it. And when I was in secondary school, I was a kind of, for me to know that I truly belong there, that after 10 years, if I'm not there, I will surrender. Believing that 10 years is 10 months. But when I was busy applying to various schools, I was almost turned down and turned down. A particular one that should have accepted me, after interviewing me, they said, your age has passed what we want. Then, by then, 10 years has elapsed. It was as if the whole world crashed on me. That is when my moral crisis began.
Okay.
I passed through so many depression. So in fact, it's as if I am a failure. I saw myself as everything wrong. I begin to, being somebody that has been trained to be a counselor, I begin to look for counsel. I begin to go in search of counseling. Okay. As I was searching for counseling, I begin to, who will handle my psychology? I want to go into arguments. I want somebody who will feel my position intellectually and otherwise, and then handle me and hold me down.
So did you go to any extreme, any of those things you weren't able to do back in the days?
Along the line, while I was passing through this crisis, I was kind of, what is the need of being faithful? For the first time, I set my eyes in pornography. For the first time, something I have rejected. I said, so something I know it by hearing. But from that moment, I begin to, the thought and imagination of, carry that gear now, you can toast her, I can get her down, begin to come into my head. You know?
Yeah.
I begin to struggle and struggle and struggle with it. I must confess, a time came when the struggle was almost 50-50. It was in between that time again, God provided a counselor that I had been searching for. And two of us sat and sat and sat. After talking and talking and talking, well, it made me to understand one thing. You must not be a Catholic priest. You must not be a priest before you serve God. Even as a non-priest, you can do better.
Yeah. Wow.
Then, gradually, my moral sanity began to come back. At the end of it all, this thing took almost 2 years.
The entire process.
To be honest. For me to be able to overcome that particular, then from there I begin to pick again myself to diversify.
Now, having heard...
Coming up next on the show.
You wake up every day with most of these feelings, and I'm not up to 45 years.
God bless you.
It could be in two ways anyway. To some person, it could be increased sexual energy. Some people could be decreased sexual energy.
Is it normal to see a 50-year-old man who dresses up, is wearing jeans and is sagging?
No, sagging is insanity.
Having heard Samuel as the psychologist, having heard his story, why does midlife, I want you to give us this as like your profession, why exactly does midlife crisis happen?
All right, I want to start by saying this. Midlife crisis, it mentions something about identity. It's like a period where people are struggling to find their identity. In fact, somebody has said that midlife crisis.
So sorry, does it mean like your entire life, like as a teenager, as a young adult, where they're saying know yourself, know what you're called to do, does it mean you really didn't know yourself all this while?
Some people have called it second adolescence. So it's a period where people reevaluate and to see what they've done in the past, how, you know, when growing up, many people set some goals and had some dreams, desire what they want to achieve. And then at the point they grew, then at that age, they now reflect, looking inward now. Have I been able to meet up with this? Have I done this? Oh, my mate has been able to do this. This is what I've wanted to do. And one thing, there are two things very important here. There is a fear of losing youthfulness. And then there's also a fear of actual mortality, like he mentioned in the divination. Now, he feels there's no more time for me to do this. For instance, what he just said, they told him the period of being admitted into priesthood has passed. So, in fact, in his narration, you can see that was a major issue that actually brought the crisis. So he needed someone that could actually rechannel his life and let him know that you could actually do this. You mustn't be this for you to be fulfilled. That's what could cause it to some people.
So now, having established the cause, what are the symptoms? Like, for instance, if someone is going through, because one of the major challenges we have in Nigeria is he talks about identification. Yeah. When you have a challenge, maybe even if you have depression, you probably wouldn't even know that you have depression or you're suffering midlife crisis. What are the symptoms such that even if you cannot help yourself, somebody else can look at what you're doing and say, this is the problem with you, this is what's wrong?
All right, the symptoms ranges from something mild and moderate to severe. I'll start from the mild one, where most people will just ignore it. It's not really significant. You see, people at that range, they start turning back. They might lose their old friends. They do away with old friends, start going out with much younger people. You see somebody at age 40, 50, trying to dress like a young guy of 20, and they start doing youthful things, things that they supposed to have done at the past. Those are mild symptoms you could see. Sometimes people in relationship that are couples, husbands, they do away with, they could just file for divorce. They think impulsively at that moment, they act impulsively, and they could just file for divorce because they want a younger person. And then it could also result in severe psychological distress that might give rise to depression. People become depressed, they lack psychic energy, they are not things they enjoyed doing before. They no longer see the need for it. Some people could have increased, it could be in two ways anyway. To some person, it could be increased sexual energy. Some people could be decreased sexual energy. They just see, like what you said, what was the need for me staying faithful to myself? Let me just be doing it. And to some person, they were doing it before. They just feel, what is the need of this life very soon now? Let me just be. There's a sense of emptiness. And that's where the psychological distress, the burden, the problem really comes in. And that is the one people notice as this person is going through crisis. But those other ones, because people were just here, my father is just being a young guy, not really knowing that his father is actually experiencing some...
But is it possible, and this is a question thrown out to everyone, especially when it comes to that mindset of my father is just, or my mother is just being young and hip, right? Because a lot of times, even I have several aunts who like to look young and hip, and like it's so trendy for me to wear my pants and t-shirt and step out and we're like twinning, you know. Does it mean that everybody who wears such outfits or who displays such characteristic that they're undergoing midlife crisis?
To some extent.
What do you think?
No, I don't think everybody,
not really.
I don't think everybody that decides to dress young and smart
hip,
and hip is going through midlife crisis.
Okay,
first of all, I've not said it does not exist. I only said it's the response that makes it crisis. So it actually exists. And like he said, I agree with what he said. We have issues identifying when one is going through crisis. Now, talking about dressing and looking hip and all that. For instance, I'm into marketing communications. my key area is event management, experiential activities. So most of the time, I have to be on jeans and t-shirts. So I try to wear anything outside that weekends when I'm not working. But you could see me on a Monday morning with t-shirts, jeans, and I have Teams and boots and all that.
Okay.
Doesn't mean
you're not going
through that.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of my job. So if I'm not working, if I'm not in that, you could see me in something else. So somebody might just see you now, and if you have that belief that anybody trying to look hip is going through crisis. So somebody sees me and says,
is it normal to see a 50-year-old man who dresses up, is wearing jeans and is sagging?
No, sagging is insanity. Sagging is, I have an 18-year-old, I tell him, if you sag in my house, you're gone. Why do you want to sag? You have belt. Oh, if it's bigger than you, then don't wear it. By your size. So if 50-year-old man is wearing sagging, sorry, don't want you to sag. You need to see a shrink.
Charles, let's hear from you first, Samuel.
Okay, truth is, I don't even believe in the term midlife crisis. You know why? I'm reading this.
You didn't read it to the end. I want to read to the end. You know, one part, after talking about Eliot coining the term, he said that some people don't believe it exists.
Yes.
It's there.
I don't believe. You know why? I'm reading this definition. Prior to this time, I never did believe. I just thought this was just somewhere in limbo. And I'm reading this and I'm saying that can occur in middle-aged individuals between 45 to 64. And then I went further, I had to look out for signs and symptoms because I'm asking myself, what is this really? And I'm seeing low mood lasting 2 weeks or more, not getting enough enjoyment out of life, feeling of hopelessness. Sweetheart, there are days when I wake up and I feel terrible.
You're depressed.
And you understand? And I wake up and I want to change something. Okay, I'm going to diet today. No, I'm going to wear jeans today. You wake up every day with most of these feelings. And I'm not up to 45 years.
God bless you.
So in that context, is it mid? I don't understand. Like, I just feel this is just English.
That's why I said it's a response to issues.
You know what? We will go on a break, and when we come back, this discussion continues. Midlife crisis, is it just English? We'll be right back.
Coming up next on the show.
Our social system actually allows people, gives a kind of a good environment for people to develop midlife crisis.
These are things that happen to us almost every day. It's not ourselves the truth.
There are moments of time, there are times you pass through pain in order to go to the next level of life.
So you think that's what midlife crisis is?
That is crisis.
Passing through pain.
Definitely.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Inside Out Show. We're discussing midlife crisis, and just before we went on a break, Charles, you said something about midlife crisis being just English.
I feel it's just English. It's just
to you.
People looking for an excuse. These are things that happen to us almost every day. We must tell ourselves the truth, and some of us are not even up to this age that's stipulated here. And then you're telling me it's just, I don't know.
Onyema, please.
Yeah. First, I want to respond to the comments you made that you don't believe in it. Belief is a personal thing. Secondly, for the fact you are ignorant of a particular truth does not mean such a truth don't exist. Then,
truth is relative.
If you look at the definition you gave there, one of the comments there said transition. Bringing it back to what I defined before as crisis. An interruption of a peaceful flow of life. There is a peaceful flow. All of a sudden, something in between comes in. You begin to struggle with that, and that is crisis at that moment. It's different from daily stress we normally have every day. You go today, down for driver slap you.
No, transition and interruption are two different things.
No, if you're talking about transition means going from one level
to another.
That's
transition.
in between that transition, there are always interruptions. Which we can call, maybe, is it in biology, metamorphosis? Growing from one level to another. Changing strengths and changing. When there are metamorphoses, it don't feel easy. How do I put it? It don't feel palatable. There are moments of time, there are times you pass through pain in order to go to the next level of life.
So you think that's what midlife crisis is?
That is crisis.
Passing through pain.
Definitely.
Samuel, please.
I want to react in response to he saying
What
he
Charles
doesn't
said.
doesn't really believe it. It's not about believing it. And I want to add that it's not that everybody that's 40 above must have midlife crisis.
Thank you.
It's not
So
like that.
it's not like a phase of life that everybody must
No.
face.
That is
No.
why I emphasize on the
Actually-
can
actually-
and the may in that definition.
Hold on, please.
Eliot actually coined the term, and he referred to the psychological distress that people have as a result of passing through midlife. And this was as a result of people looking inward and seeing that they've not been able to achieve their dreams or meet up their dream, or meeting their dreams do not give them that satisfaction and they wanted to have had before. So they want to chart a new course for themselves, and then they go through some kind of turmoil. And it's only that turmoil that can be described as crisis here. But some people go through life seemingly at ease. They do not even know when they've clocked 40. Some people, it's only when they tell them, Daddy, you're becoming, by next year you'll be 40, before he will even know he has.
It dawns on them.
Because his desires, his expectation in life, he's been meeting them as at when he wanted to. He has always had the opportunity to fulfill his desires and dreams.
Okay.
So the issue of crisis doesn't come in. So to somebody like that, if you mention the word midlife crisis, he might tell you he doesn't believe in it.
So
But-
it's mostly for people who don't have life going easy.
Yes.
Okay, Larry.
Okay, life hasn't been rosy for me. And I still don't align with this midlife crisis issue. Life hasn't been rosy for me. I've had issues. I've had marital crisis. We're talking about crisis now. But that didn't put a stop into my life. That didn't make me go negative. I just, paused, identified the issue. So taking back to the first thing I said in the beginning, it's about choices and decisions you've made in the
But
past.
what do you think? Because most people will go through what you've gone through. I mean, I don't know all of them, and then they go
Break
to the
down.
extreme.
So
either-
takes you back.
So
Takes you
what
back.
is it you're doing that other people are not
Takes
doing?
you back to what I've been saying since, that it's your response. The same thing, in fact, some people have not gone through half of what I've gone through, and they're on medication already. They're really, really depressed. At a point in my life, when I'm sleeping, I have my aunt and my mom coming close to see, is she breathing? Is she really sleeping, or she's faking and just trying to get out of the room?
Wow.
It was that bad. I asked my like, you people should go and sleep. I want to sleep. It's the way you respond. Okay, my Instagram handle is resilient chick. My Twitter is, I go with the word, I'm a resilient woman. So when I break down, I pick myself up and I keep moving. It's the response to life. I've had financial issues, I've had marital issues, I've had different issues at different points in time, but it didn't make me go negative, get depressed. Another thing, the way I was brought up, my father raised me as a son. My name is Larry. Raised me as a son, and he goes, when anything happens to you, the first thing you do is to acknowledge it has happened.
Acceptance.
Accept it first, then you keep moving. When the man died, initially they were paying us and going about different stories, like, just tell me, is he dead? And they said, no. On Friday night, I came back on Saturday morning to play the news. I was like, why are you wasting the time? The man is dead. And I stood up. I was in my final year in university then, and I stood up, went upstairs. Oh, this man is gone. And within the next 1 hour, I was checking his house, checking his room, packed some of his documents. By Monday morning, I went to the bank, I'd written to the bank and all that. And 40 days later, my mother was saying that, hey, I'm going to write to the banks and say they should freeze the account. I'm like, oh, really? He taught me, once it happens, accept it, think of what next. What do you do next? And that has been my philosophy. So once anything happens, oh, it has happened.
What's the
I
next
feel
step?
hot, I'm sad, I'm unhappy. But what next? I cannot remain in this gloomy state.
I want to salute her courage, because people like her are not much. like going back to what I said about myself, a time came when I had to look for a counselor. But there's something you're missing somewhere from what you have narrated now. Without even you knowing that it has happened to you.
Okay.
The negative approach, the negative feelings about it. In between those experiences, it said there are moments your family members, mother or siblings will be coming to watch you.
They were worried.
What prompted them coming to watch you?
Because they were worried. Okay, for instance, so how do you explain?
Because you're going through so much and you're not
Yes,
reacting
they know
the
what's
way they
happening
expect
to me.
you to
They
react.
expect me to be crying. Larry is not crying. They expect me not to eat or to brood, and I'm the one cracking jokes and making everybody laugh. So they felt I was even in denial. They felt maybe I was trying to hide this, and they were really watching me. They keep somebody to keep caps on me, like, don't worry, I'm fine.
Do you know why? Because to them, that is humanly abnormal.
Yes, because they feel me to react negatively. So I did it.
Now, Samuel, for someone who is undergoing midlife crisis, and maybe the family spots it, or maybe the person is not willing to say, I'm going through midlife crisis, or refuses to accept it, what is the place of the family and friends? What can they do?
First, is some kind of difficult for the family members to actually see this person is going through midlife crisis. Most time is the professionals that can actually link.
But you know, in Nigeria, truth be told, right, we don't have a lot of people who undergo mental evaluation. It's like you go for health checkup. I want to be sure I don't have cancer. I don't have this. I don't have ulcer. That's fine.
Yes.
But what about here? A lot of us don't. You know, I do mental evaluation because I have a friend who is in the field. Other than that, I probably wouldn't, and that is just me being honest.
Yeah.
So how would they even know and then think of going to seek?
That's why I'm coming to.
Yeah.
If the person did not have a serious psychological distress that requires mental health intervention, the family members may not just know. They might just feel, oh, this guy is acting up, he's misbehaving. Oh, why is he even dressing like this? Why is he doing this? Well, I've taken him to this, he's not doing this, and some form of criticism like that. And that might actually worsen the situation. I tell you, our social system gives room. Our social system actually allows people, gives a kind of a good environment for people to develop midlife crisis, because people expect so much from you. The family expects so much from you. See some young people, the family expect that at 35 you should be this. In fact, there is this thing that circulates on the social media. They said Gowon was head of state at 30, and you're at 35, you're still here, you don't have what to do. And somebody who is just trying to pick his life could actually break down. So it's difficult most times for the family members to actually pinpoint that this is midlife crisis, except when it's severe depression. And let me also add that it's not only mental illnesses or disorders that can actually mark midlife crisis. Some people are just so low. They are just telling you, I'm having malaria, consecutively like that. Their malarias don't get healed. They don't have the energy to go to work like they used to. Some could just be cold. They are just for a very long period of time, they are sneezing, catarrh, and all of what have you. It's just that they have referred to as psychosomatic reactions. It's just a response. It's just a cry for help. Not that the person is actually doing it, but it's showing it on symptoms that is in the body.
Yeah, in line with that, when you asked that question about dressing, I made comments of, I said to some extent, that's exactly the angle is coming from now. I have an experience of somebody, a kind of one-on-one session with a man about their wife's sudden change of attitude and dressing. So when I entered into the case, began to discuss with the woman, at the end I discovered that she got married early, around that 15 years. She didn't have time to experiment so many things. After having about 4 children, in fact, by then the first child was almost 12 years, or thereabouts. So she said, I'm through with my childbearing. In fact, I want to do CC.
This is time to rock.
She began to go back, wearing things. In fact, the husband was shot. No, eventually the man was worshiping with choosing. So it was a kind of, the wife has backslided. It has become taboo. But I was able to let the man know that the problem is not really she backsliding. There are things she missed when she was tender. She's feeling vacuum now for. That's exactly what she's going back to.
Now, you know what, let's bring this down to marriage, because usually when there is a midlife crisis going on, the person who suffers it most is the partner, right? So let's say as a result of midlife crisis right now, the woman maybe starts dressing shabbily or like a teenager, or maybe the man starts having an affair, or maybe the woman feels, you know what, I can't cook, I can't serve you again, I want to travel and tour the world. How do you as a partner handle that? Are you going to hold it against them? Does it become one of the marital grudges?
Yeah, how it is managed will determine whether the marriage will be blissful or not. The first thing here is understanding. If, for instance, I'm married and I've lived with my wife all through her 30s, and then at 40s she's now acting in a way I consider that as there's a problem. It's left for me to show understanding that there is actually an issue. So everything boils down to understanding.
We'll go on a break, and when we come back, this discussion continues, and then we get to hear from our audience as well. Stay with us. This is the Inside Out Show.
Coming up next on the show.
First of all, I want to ask, is it possible for you to experience all the symptoms of midlife crisis and still be a youth?
Most people going through midlife crisis result into drug abuse. That doesn't mean we do not have younger people, youth, who are abusing drugs.
A philosopher said, don't be afraid of the future. The future is in the hand of God. Do the present, leave the future to God.
Show, we're still discussing midlife crisis, and now over to you, Charles. What's going on social media? What are people saying?
We put up a post on Facebook,
and
we said, what are the best ways to avoid the midlife crisis? And Solomon Johnson said, one way to avoid it is by developing financial literacy. Financial literacy is significant if we want to grow our savings with investment. Investing our money on things worthwhile, like property or real estate, will turn our midlife from crisis to opportunities. Above all, maintaining a positive view of life will make us happy even when we have unfulfilled expectations. So our happiness doesn't depend on anyone, it depends on us, I agree. So choose happiness and contentment over fear at all times.
Okay, so now time to hear from my audience. Let's hear from you.
My name is Kenny. And I just want to give a quick comment on the fact that I do not believe the term mid in the crisis is actually realistic, because we have, first of all, I want to ask, is it possible for you to experience all the symptoms of midlife crisis and still be a youth? Because we have a lot of these symptoms affecting people in schools, and they end up doing the worst, like taking it negatively, killing themselves, committing suicide. So I just want to find out, is it realistic to actually name it midlife crisis? Because it actually has a lot to do with the fact that our youths are getting impatient and becoming more adamant on making it by any means, which actually makes them look back. That transition comes early, making them look back and thinking, at 27, I've not done anything good in my life. I should end my life.
Okay.
Let me respond to that question. We should know that they've said social thing is a symptom of midlife crisis. Doesn't mean other people who are not in midlife cannot experience such thing.
So when you suffer it and you're not in midlife, what does that mean?
We call it a name of what it is. Most people in midlife, most people going through midlife crisis result into drug abuse. That doesn't mean we do not have younger people, youth, who are abusing drug. It's basically substance abuse, and it has nothing to do with midlife.
So when it's youth, what do we call it? Youthful exuberance?
That's the street.
Youthful crisis.
That's the street name. That's the street. You might call it youthful exuberance, but everything has a name, a diagnosis given, and what it is should be called as what it is.
Okay, let's have the next comment, sir.
I do not believe in midterm crisis. Yes, because first of all, my ideology, my concept, my philosophy towards life. I grew up understanding that when you have a situation, acknowledge it first. Don't try to, like, you know, make it worse by making, you know, expanding or escalating the crisis itself. I do not panic when I'm in a situation. I just look, okay, what do I do next?
Okay.
Well, it doesn't work with other people. Do you understand? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
And it's what he said. We really want to make money, we really want to live large and all that. But let's make smart goals, specific goals, measurable goals, achievable goals. Not that you know your background and you're aiming for by 40 I want to live in Banana Island. When you know that, we know we are living in Alagbado. And you know that this is, you're in some, maybe you want to grammar school, as it were. You know that we haven't trying to, they even have told you that you might not be able to go to higher institution because you don't have money in the house. And you're already 18 and you want to live in Banana Island by 28. Achievable goals, realistic and time bound. So you set, so to avoid crisis, you set time. So you can do a year goal, 5-year goal, 10 years goal, like that. So that every time you can sit back, review, assess, and evaluate your progress.
All right.
You said you can set a goal, but in some cases, when you set a goal and your goal does not score, you know, when your football does not score a goal. But about a lady, I have a friend. She married at the age of 25 years. She had a lovely husband. Everything is rosy and stuff. Then they don't have a child for how many years? She's now 50. They still want a single child, but there is no child. But there's a pressure everywhere. So what can she do? I want to know.
Is she undergoing midlife crisis? Like, what exactly is her situation? Because not having a child
could be a medical issue.
It could be a medical issue. So, except is linked to midlife crisis.
I get where she's coming from. I don't know if I can respond to that.
Okay, please, as fast as possible.
She is trying to respond to the answer they gave about setting goals. By so doing, they have changed her view from what it should be. Crisis is not something you can avoid, except you have foreseen it.
Okay.
But you can manage whatever crisis that comes your way if you want to. So, in a situation whereby somebody is existing in life and you're telling him don't set goals, I disagree with that. Set your goals, set your priority, work towards it. A philosopher said, don't be afraid of the future. The future is in the hand of God. Do the present, leave the future for God.
Okay, let's have it. Please come this way.
I think I don't know, maybe the term, I don't know what I'll call it, but it's all this, I think it exists. Personally, I was brought up in a religious kind of, I don't want to mention the denomination. Now, we are taught to be perfect. Not to even you dare not do something wrong that so it got to an extent I was doing wrong, but I could not tell. My parents didn't know I was doing wrong. Now I got to when I grew up, I got to when I feel okay, I'm mature enough. Even when I've gotten married, I was like hiding some things from my parents. But just last year, I have to open up. I told my dad, I said, see, this happened in my life. But you brought us up to be perfect, that we don't have to say anything that, it was actually a crisis because I have to change totally. People that know me, they will have backslided to the extreme because I began to live the life I really want to live. Now, I believe that's just like you said, the background where you came from. Now, your parents may make you live a particular life, and you just grew up to find out this is not the kind of life I want to live. So I believe it exists. So that's just it.
All right, thank you. All right, so having heard from the audience, Ms. Onyema, can we have your last thought on this topic, midlife crisis?
Okay. Midlife
or maybe
crisis.
your awareness warning to people since you've experienced it.
Just to put it this way, that Christ made a comment. He said, in this world, you will have stress, but rejoice, I have conquered the world. Meaning, in each stages of our life, we are bound to face one particular crisis or the other. It's something that's, the word I have been using, is inevitable. But the most important thing is that he made a comment, he said, rejoice, I have conquered the world. Meaning that while you are facing that, put your faith and your hope in this same God, and then look for solution. He will see you through.
All right, Larry, I hope this time around I'm not bringing out the kitty woman in
Don't
you.
worry. Don't worry. We're in Lagos now. Okay, so you asked me earlier and you said, what was it that stood me out, that kept me going? So I spoke about resilience and all that. But I had the scripture that I held on to most times. So it was more like, that it won't put more on me than I can bear. So no matter how terrible the thing might be at that point, I just feel, he knows I can bear it. So it will show me what to do. So, midlife crisis. Let's remove midlife. Crisis will come in life. Midlife, high life, low life. Crisis will come. Our life. Just respond positively. Build your shock absorber. Have your personal belief. Be positive. Build your resilience. Respond positively to crisis when they come. God help us.
And Samuel?
People believing if they can do it or believing whatever, it's something they call locus of control. Some people believe that whatever happens to them is as a result of what they do and not what external, whether God or anything, does. So if you feel that you are more of external, put your strong faith in God and whatever you believe in. But if you think what comes to you is as a result of your actions, then you have to be realistic when taking those actions and the desires you want to make.
I think that's a very valid point. If what comes to you is as a result of your actions, what you can control, then you should seek help. And then if it's something out of your control, then maybe just learn to trust God.
You must also realize, you must also know the difference between what you can control and what you cannot control. It's very important.
I feel you can't avoid crisis, you can't avoid problems or challenges. But again, like she said, how you're able to handle them is what matters. I think they come anytime. They don't come when you're 40. There is no special time frame in your life when they come. They always come, so be able to handle them. And another thing I learned in this session is I realized that what makes people think they have midlife crisis is because they didn't live a certain life, like she said. She was living the life her parents wanted her to live, and then she realized that this is who I want to be. Now I have a mantra that I always say, do you. When you do you won't. I just feel that's a good way to avoid certain things.
Absolutely. All right, now for me, what I would say is that I think midlife crisis is real. I've seen it play out on several occasions. Yeah, maybe people who are not strong enough to handle certain things that were thrown at them, right? That certain things that life threw at them. At some point, you're like, you know what? I really don't care. If my life is taking this toll, then I might as well be an extremist and try things out. You only live once, right? But I also think that there is room for, as much as we're Christians or Muslims and we have some deity or being that we believe in, I feel that we could also help ourselves. There are some mental trainings that we can do that just builds your mental self, gives you that shock absorber to take, lets you know that this is life. Life can fling you up and back and sideways. Your life is really uncertain. You can't predict tomorrow. And so you build yourself today in realization that whatever happens tomorrow, I should be able to absorb it and move on to life and not. And we should also be aware that if you're indifferent about midlife crisis, you may not suffer it, or you may suffer it and you feel awesome about it, but then there are family, there are friends, there are people who care about you, and it's really going to affect them. Life is really not just all about you. Yes, you deserve to be happy, but you should also care about people who you care about. Okay, having said that, I think this is where we call it a wrap on today's edition of the Inside Out Show. Thank you, my audience, my panelists. Thank you all so much. And you watching at home, thank you for tuning in to today's edition of the Inside Out Show. Don't forget to follow us online. That's the Inside Out Show, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, The Inside Out Show. And on YouTube, you can watch previous episodes. Just search The Inside Out Show. You'll see our page. Please like and subscribe. Yeah? Okay, and not forgetting to thank our partners who are KGM, Aquadana Nigeria Limited, Deli Foods, Bakers World, Fortney's, Funky Bee and Tea, Small Chops and Food. Thank you so much. And not forgetting Beauty by Omalicha. God bless you all for partnering with us. See you on the next episode of The Inside Out Show. Thank you.